Hey folks, you know I take my trail camera intel pretty seriously. It's a huge part of how I build my hunting strategy, and I'm always looking for gear that just flat out works. Stuff I can rely on. Backed by solid people and the best customer support in the business. That's exactly why I run Tacticam Reveal cell cameras. Whether you're just getting started or you're a full-blown data junkie like me, they've got a camera to fit your budget and your hunting style. My go-to currently is the Reveal 3.0 series with fully integrated GPS. These things are dead simple to set up. Less fiddling, more scouting and hunting. And they run on most major service providers and will automatically connect you to the strongest signal in your area. So no more hiking to the top of a ridge just to realize you've got the wrong service provider. Been there, not fun. Here's the kicker. You don't even need an SD card. That means fewer trips in, less pressure on your spots, and more real-time intel sent straight to your phone. And if you pair it with a Reveal solar panel or a lithium cartridge, you can keep those cameras running longer and spend more time doing what actually matters. Scouting new ground, dialing in a setup, or maybe, just maybe, finally cleaning the garage like you told your wife you would before the season started. Don't just take my word for it. Check out Tacticam Reveal at tacticam.com. Tacticam. Everything you need to take your hunting to the next level. Stay more comfortable, more concealed, and in the stand longer with Oscio gear. Premium camouflage apparel created for bow hunters by bow hunters. Oscio's revolutionary patented camo patterns and innovative features are designed to keep whitetail bow hunters totally invisible and dead quiet. Elevate your game with Oscio. Visit asiogear.com and take 20% off your purchase with code TRUTH20. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Tacticam Reveal Cellular Cameras. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 454. Today, I'm joined by my buddy, Greg Litzinger, to help get you ready with a little preseason Q&A. So stay tuned. All right. What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are feeling fine, and hopefully you're getting your final touches, doing a last-minute kind of final summer prep, maybe a little trail camera pool, check the cards. I typically wait to do my card pool of the summer. Well, if you're not running cell cameras, maybe a quick kind of check sometime during the midpoint of the summer just to make sure batteries are good, nothing kind of fell apart, or you're not getting false triggers, et cetera, et cetera. But with that, I usually do kind of my final check. Typically anymore, it's been usually my only check for SD card cameras. Around like the 20th, sometime after the 18th/22nd of August. That's usually like, any deer that might kind of make a pass through a particular area, that might be kind of maybe, let's say, scoping out their fall range. Maybe they're not summering there, but they're going to spend some time in the fall in a particular area. By that time, you'll usually get whatever one or two flyer bucks or roamer bucks that you didn't have on camera at all during the summer. All of a sudden a new one will pop up, and that's usually happens by that kind of 22nd of August timeframe, right? Did I say October earlier? If I did, I meant August. So I usually wait until after that date to do my final kind of summer camera card pool, or even a lot of times my first one. That usually will give me a good sense of like what's generally in the area as prospects. Now, shifts are going to happen. If you have an early opener, you can maybe make a play on some of the deer that you have on camera that time of year. If not, I have a slightly early opener, so usually maybe I get like a week roughly to make a play on a deer that might be spending some summer and then gonna transition as the fall rolls around. But some of those bucks you're going to keep around that are there during the summer are going to stick around for the fall. You just don't know which ones until you can either see them on the hoof, or maybe you validate it with some early season, early October kind of trail camera data. But with that, we're having a little bit of a preseason kickoff here. Every year, Greg and I do this session. It's a listener Q&A. Appreciate you guys writing questions in. I always look forward to this episode. Just it gives us a chance to kind of talk, Greg and I, to catch up. But also, it makes me think a little bit about maybe things that I don't always think about, right? And so that's what I love about the questions. Hopefully it helps you guys out. It certainly helps me out, and just in terms of kind of thinking through some things that maybe I take for granted, maybe don't think through fully until the time kind of comes. And so it's a good primer for me too. And so that's what we're going to do today, where it's going to be a little bit of upfront with Greg and I kind of catching up on what he's kind of got going on for the season a little bit. And then we're going to jump right into listener questions and answer as many of those as we can. So just as a heads up, this is going to be a 2-part episode because we ran like a little over 2 hours long or whatever. And so a lengthy podcast, if you will. And so we're going to kind of keep it to an hour for this one and an hour on the second one. So if you wrote a question in and you didn't hear it in this session, we'll be addressing it in the second one. Anywhere just to make sure, like I took a look at everybody's submissions that you guys put in. And again, thank you for sending those questions in. But we do get a lot of overlap. So what I try to do is I try to just kind of find the questions that we're going to ask that are going to address maybe multiple questions that were kind of sent in. So we hopefully cover everything in one fell swoop. Truthfully, with all the questions you guys sent in, Greg and I probably could have been here for 2 days going through all the questions individually. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's show. As always, thank you all for listening. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. And today I got on my buddy, you guys know him, you love him, Mr. Greg, by God, Litzinger. We're doing it video style. Usually we're face to face for this one, but he told me I don't rate anymore, so he couldn't make it over.
Yeah. It's happening.
Chilling, man. How you doing, buddy? How are things? Look, it's going to get a little... I think it's going to get a little stormy, man. We got super dark clouds out my window. You've already had power flicker on your side, so
yeah, we are. Well, I'm without power right now, so I'm going to start sweating probably profusely here in about 5 minutes. So that's solid. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, give you a good workout.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm going to be like,
nice.
Cut me, Mick. Cut me.
Get the Rocky vibe going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude. It's just been stupid hot, man. Like I hate to complain about it because whenever it gets super cold, I'm always like, man, I can't wait for the nicer weather. Yeah, I mean, I think we all enjoy that fall weather time frame. That's our preferred time, right? But
you'll never
I'm also
hear
not a fan of the super cold either.
You'll never hear me complain about super cold because you know what? I can throw a jacket on and I'm good. This weather, it's like I'm sweating while I'm taking a shower. Just like it's not a fan of high temperature and humidity. Just not. Can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can only take so many clothes off. Until the cops get called, essentially.
Exactly. I got kids.
Yeah.
Can't walk around.
Yeah.
Daddy, I'm like, it's hot.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Right, yeah, it's get off me. Like, don't touch me,
Yeah, it's like
my neighbors. I was gonna say my neighbors. They not anymore because the kids are older. When we first moved in, man, those kids were like not just like in a diaper or shorts outside in the summer. They were outside all summer long, stark ass naked, all the time, like running around the yard, just like. I was like, I don't think their parents are hippies. They didn't seem like hippies, but
saving on diapers.
Total feral dude. Like locking the mom outside.
That's right.
Saving on diapers. You squat in the yard like a wolf.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I did in my youth.
Right. You see that pole over there? You pee on that. That's yours.
Yeah. Mark your turf.
Oh, man. Yeah, exactly. Well, cool, man. This is our annual, every August, for anyone who's new to the show, every August, Greg and I get together, usually in person. He's got a lot going on right now, though. Busy lives. We usually get together and we do a Greg and Clint TNA show. We give the people what they want. It's not really TNA, but it's Q&A. It's close enough.
Yeah, it's close enough.
I mean, it gets hot enough. You might see some tea. You might see some tea from. It gets hot enough. You might see some tea from Greg.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not making a fashion statement with one ear pod or earbud, whatever these things are called, and it's just the cauliflower ear has taken over, and I can't fit the things in my ears anymore. So on the one side, so it's not a fashion statement, although. It could be. I could be starting a new thing.
Yeah, there you go.
It's kind of like it's like what the Nelly thing, like where you put like one Band-Aid under the eye,
Yeah.
Like I could just be like the one earbud guy,
It's like that's what they do at work.
It's like make a fashion statement.
yeah, you can't have earbuds at work, so you put one in. I have one good ear still, and you're like, there's a gray area. Yes, I still have available hearing. So you can technically have your earbuds in at work. You just have one in.
Right. Yeah. It's like you just blow one ear out at a time. It's cool. That way
Right.
you're operating at least to 50% all the time.
And we used to work
Yeah.
with a guy who couldn't
But
hear out of
yeah, anyone who's not familiar with no,
this.
go ahead.
Yeah, we got a delay here on that one. I was like, whoa. Uh, but yeah, we worked with a guy, he
Yeah.
couldn't hear out of his right ear. It'd be like doing a job, and he'd just be working. You'd have to go on the other side and be like, hey, John. He's like, hey, what, man? I was like, we're going to break. He was just being there working and can't hear out of his right side. So you'd have to like talk to him from the left side. You know, it was this very unique situation sometimes.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you could always if you didn't want to do something, you could always just be like, I didn't hear you.
I
You
do
know.
that to my wife now.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say it's a good thing to have at home a
Yeah.
lot of times, you know. the But yeah, so this episode is the session where Greg and I do a Q&A. I always look forward to it because it gives us a chance to, we're always busy and, people will send messages and stuff throughout the year. And like, I'll just be honest, I'm terrible about getting back to people on messages and emails or anything that is not right in front of me. And so it's the one time out of the year that I can actually take some time, get some questions that people have, and get on the podcast and address them because, I think when we, even when just Greg and I do a podcast together, like we try to do the best we can to share the information that we think is valuable or helpful to us. But, the things that we think about, as they change aren't necessarily the things that other people are thinking about. And so just want to make sure we're kind of covering all of our bases, especially as we kind of get to the beginning part of the year here, where everyone's kind of putting the finishing touches on their plans, making plans, trying to fine tune things and stuff like that. And so we'll just kind of jump into the question. But before we do that, I think I sent you a couple pictures of a couple deer. I think I located like 1 to 2, maybe 3 decent deer locally. So I'm kind of fired up about that.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're very good deer. I mean, they're great deer for my standards, but your standards are a little higher, so they're all right deer. But for me, they're phenomenal deer.
You're always giving me shit, dude. Always giving me shit.
What are friends for?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think the one I actually waited to this podcast to tell you this, but I think that big framey 7-point I sent you. Do you remember when you were over I think you were over to the house in the spring, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We did a podcast, I'm pretty sure. And we flipped through like a bunch of pictures because I had just gone and pulled some cameras and stuff. And there was a big 6-point that was on the one camera in an area that I didn't hunt at all last year. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went back and looked, and I'm almost certain that big 6, local, so not in the not in the big woods area,
Local.
is
Wink, wink.
the deer, the big framey 7 that. Wink, wink. Yeah. The big framey 7 that I had sent you, I think he's the big 6 from last year because I was kind of looking and he's only about a mile and a half as the crow flies maybe from where I picked him up in the fall. Awesome. And it just it would seem odd that there would be 2 like in the same general area that are kind of like very similar kind of stature, if you will. Which is interesting because I never had that deer where I was getting him in the fall. I never had him there other than like very late October or like beginning of November. That would be it. And so now I think I kind of know where he's spending other parts of his fall now.
Oh, that's good. It's a good deer. It's a great deer, actually.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'd be happy to shoot him. I'll say that. He won't get a pass from me if I run into him. We'll put it that way.
A longbow special coming at you.
And then Yeah, the longbow special. I mean, dude, if I killed that deer with a longbow, I mean, if I kill anything with a longbow, I'm gonna be fired up. But that one in particular, especially since I kind of have a little bit of knowledge of him or whatever, and I'm picking him up in two different areas. I have a couple different, maybe have a couple different plays at him potentially.
Yeah.
But what what uh what are your, and we'll dive into the questions here in a second, but what's your like elevator speech for your upcoming season as far as like prospects and potential? You looking good?
I was, and now we're a few weeks out from our opener, and we have a August shift because of people in the woods dropping bait. Um, so I was a really good deer in July, consistent, and the last, I don't know, 12 days, it's pretty much petered down to almost nothing. So I'm gonna have to go out and grid search. The one I thought I had him nailed down pretty good, but I never got summertime pictures of him until this year. And he's in his little core area. Like, I think he spends a lot of time there, and I had him coming and going for like 2 weeks straight, almost every day, going to beans, coming out. I'm like, oh man, this is good. He's very patternable. Like, I had good access to that spot. The way he's running on the south winds, it was money. I was like, early season, I got a really good shot of him, and nothing. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say bait has been dropped somewhere. So I need to go out and take a gander for him the next available rainstorm, which would have been great to go out today, but here I am being Bob the Builder around the house the last 2 weeks. And yeah, so I got to be real careful with him. He's big enough where I can't get in there in a killable spot and send it up unless I'm getting rain washing it out. So I'm hoping some rain will come in next week because I should be done in the baby's room. Hopefully by then, the carpet's coming in. I got to do some trim work and I'm pretty much done in that room. So besides that, dude, that's all. I have my whole September because baby's coming in October. So I'm like, all right, I got September to really get it done. And losing track of two really nice deer, kind of not what I wanted, because I got a million other things on my mind. But I do have some other salt marsh prospects that I don't think I'll be bothered. I was out there last month and it was a really good deer, a bunch of them. 3 for me, maybe 1 for you, but 3 for me shooters. And I think I don't have to worry about bait.
Right.
Bait getting dropped there. It's the only way somebody's dropping bait is they're coming in by helicopter because you can't access it by boat, and you can't, if you're dragging bait back that far, I mean, you're a special person because there's a lot of corn, standing corn. So if you're dragging a sled through standing corn with 200-300 pounds of corn in it, why would you put corn in a cornfield? But you never know. It's New Jersey.
Right. Yeah, dude, that would be he's right. Dude, that's very meta. That's some meta baiting right there. I'm going to drag corn through corn.
Yeah, it's, believe it or not, you see it quite often. A little more than you would. I'd like to. I don't say I ran into that once or twice, but that would be a lie. It's like, oh look, cornfield and corn. You're like,
right.
Well, and you see the corn piles and the soybean fields, which is unique, I guess. But all right, like, hey, to each their own.
Right. Nice, man. Well, I hope you locate at least a couple of those deer. I'm sure you will, man. You've been on it this year, dude. You spent a lot of time in the timber. I think you'll have things dialed in. I'm expecting a text from you sometime around like the 20th of September. How about that?
Yeah, I can get down with that. Regardless, the goal is to shoot at least 2 does regardless. And, baby comes first week of October. Maybe Halloween time, prime time, I'll probably be dipping my foot back into the woods on a regular basis. So I'm going to miss my perfect time, but maybe the baby comes early, first week of October, maybe I could squeeze out that October 20th time frame. 'Cause I feel in the marsh I really have a
Right.
good chance this year.
Right. Nice. Yeah. A little, get it early. Maybe slip out for like a day or two, where it's like, yeah, Greg, you need a break. Like, why don't you
Mhm.
go hunt for like an afternoon or two?
Yeah,
It's like,
fingers
yeah,
crossed.
for sure. You know. Yeah, exactly. I'm crossing toes over here for you,
Yeah,
dude. You're
me too.
like- nice. Yeah, man, it's I'm stoked to see how you're because I knew you had been back out in the marsh and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and I know you've had some really good deer out there, and so I'm stoked to see how all that kind of plays out. I'm
yeah,
stoked to see just like it's the two deer that I'm really kind of interested in, at least locally. I'm really interested to hunt them. I don't know what's on in the big woods piece. I have yet to look at any of the cameras, so I don't know how much time I'm going to spend up there or not. I would just say based on my kind of travel schedule and stuff this year, it's like I don't unless there's something really really compelling there. I'll probably spend more time around home just because I'm going to travel probably end of October and probably won't come back until the middle of November. Right, so I'm going to be
Kansas.
gone for a little while, so I'm probably going to try to stick around the house. Yeah, I'm gonna head out to the Midwest and see what happens. I've had some good luck out there. I'm gonna take the longbow, and my plan is to try to get out there and hunt that last week of October, like work and hunt from the trailer, kind of how I
Yeah.
did last year, just at home, or
Hmm.
at least in PA, and then have 2 weeks off the beginning of November, and hunt those 2 weeks straight. And then if I feel like I'm on it, but just kind of you know like an inch off, like here and there, just a little
Yeah.
off or whatever, I might stay the third week of November and hunt and work again from the trailer,
Yeah.
just like hunt mornings and evenings, and maybe take like a personal day here and there to catch like the weather if there's good weather that I want to hunt. So I basically told the wife, it's like I'm going to leave like end of the third week of October, and I may not be back till Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So that's kind of so
Well,
with that, it's like I'm probably not going to travel a whole lot
yeah.
in October in PA,
Well, you
unless
got
unless
your
there's something really cool that I want to chase.
yeah, you got your Sunday hunts now, so that's a bonus. Sunday hunting.
Yeah, I'm stoked about. Yeah, I'm stoked about that. It's weird. Like I've always wanted Sunday hunting, just because it just made sense. Like I love whenever I go to states that I can hunt Sundays. It just gives you obviously an extra day, and
Hmm.
it's probably not true, but I always felt like not having Sunday hunting. I always felt like the best days to hunt weather wise was always falling on a Sunday. Like the weather pattern that I wanted would hit on a Sunday
Yeah.
always, right? Probably not true. I'm probably just it probably sticks with me because there's probably been a handful of times where I had exactly what I wanted. And I go back and I check trail cameras. I'm like, yep, that deer was there on a Sunday, like,
Hmm.
so it's probably what's done it. But there is a little part of me though that look, I'll take the Sunday hunting all day, but there is a little part of me that I don't want people to take this the wrong way, that liked not having Sunday hunting to a degree, only because I couldn't necessarily hunt that day, and it would be a day that would force me to scout, right?
Yeah.
Where I wouldn't feel compelled to
Hmm.
like have to go hunt
Yeah.
necessarily, right? So I'd always take that day as like a day where I'm just like trying to figure stuff out, and it was like I can't hunt anyway, so there's no consequence. I mean, I still try to do that as much as possible, and I'm just glad that we have Sunday hunting because more people can do it and gives
Yeah.
us more options. But I was making lemonade out of limes essentially at that point, but or not out of limes, I guess lemons.
There you go. There you go.
Got to get the right fruit.
Yeah. Excuse my friend, he's a little
But
slow.
yeah, so we'll see. Look, yeah, I'm a little slow here on the uptake today. It's all right. It's hot. I'm going to blame it on the heat.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, so the local thing, what I was going to say is like the local thing I'm stoked on is the fact that one deer I saw like glassing and had an idea where I might find him, and I found him. Like just dropped one camera and found him.
Of course.
So I'm stoked on that. And then that, big funky 7, that I've kind of laid eyes on. The fact that I knew him from last year and I've kind of put puzzle pieces together where he's spending time 2 different times of the year makes me excited because I've got, I've figured some stuff out in like kind of short order, if you will, because I didn't spend any time at home last year at all.
Right.
And most of the cameras that I had out, I think only one of them actually had batteries that ran through like October, November to get any real intel, So it's kind of starting over to a degree around home, and I have prospects. So I'm happy about that. I'm thankful for that. Should be cool.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens with your longbow journey this year.
Yeah, me and you both, You're
gonna be in that boat I was
gonna
last
let her
year.
Rip and see how. I feel. Yeah, you ain't lying, man.
Being 30 yards out, and you're like, man, I can't even shoot this shot, and it's like, it's so great, but not. You're like, yes, no, but yes.
Yeah, it's I've already started thinking about just. So I'll just, as an example, I was had to swap out had a solar panel that was on a camera, and it's where I picked up that 7, and it's a bitch to get to. And the solar panel kind of died, and the batteries were dying, and I was like, man, I need to swap them soon because I think this area is going to be really good. And so I got in there and swapped it and stuff like that. And I was picking out trees, and like the trees I would typically pick out, I had to rethink and be like, that one's not going to work now.
Yeah.
Like I have to think differently about picking out my trees, and like, so I had a buddy on from Wisconsin. It's a big trapper, and I had to start thinking more almost because the way he hunts, the way he bow hunts is he almost, because he traps a lot, he thinks about trapping, and to where he's like, I'm trying to get that deer to put his foot right here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how he bow hunts. And so all of his shots are just like stupid close. And so I was trying to think about that. Like if I'm a deer and I'm walking through here with everything that's kind of happening in this area and how things kind of come together, where am I most likely to put my feet?
Yeah.
Right. And so I had to kind of think of it in that term, where it's like, you think about that as a bow hunter in general, but we get away with some stuff using compounds and stuff like that, 'cause we can just shoot a little further. And
yeah,
but with a longbow, man, it's like, man, I'm going to be kind of capped like 15-ish yards, probably 19 yards. Like I'm not going to shoot past 20,
Yeah.
And that has to be really clear and like a no doubt shot for me to take that. Like it's more likely going to be like 15 and in is going to be my comfort zone.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
a bit outside.
So cool, man. Let's what's that? Just a bit outside? Yeah.
Just
exactly.
a bit outside. I think Bob Euchre's going to be playing in the background when you see him at 35 yards.
Yeah, exactly. That's like I think I can swallow that at home. Going to be a lot harder to.
You sure about that?
A lot tougher to swallow that in you sure exactly. You
sure about that?
Yeah. It's already run through my head, and I've already kind of made peace with, I'm like, it's going to happen on this trip. I know it is. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying it's going to be like a mega giant or anything like that, but I'm already preparing myself and knowing that, like, hey, you're going to have a deer that you're going to want to shoot in the plains, and you're going to play it right, and it's going to be a cool experience, and you're just not going to have a shot, and it's just going to be what it is, which is why I'm going out early, and working and hunting, and then taking some time off to hunt, and then staying and working and hunting if I have to, just to give myself, enough bites at the apple, if you will, to try to make it happen.
So you plan on shooting as many does as possible this year with the longbow to get some kills? Is that your goal, to shoot?
Yeah, locally.
Kills and from everything else jitters out of the way?
Yeah, like usually, I hold out even at home, where I won't shoot does, especially if I'm in a spot where it's like I think I can kill a good buck, But this year that's kind of out the window. It's like I'm going to be shooting whatever does walk in front of me on whatever hunts, just because I need to get blood on the arrow. I actually have a hunt that I'm going to do with Hepler, because he has a friend who owns a farm out by him that just has a pile of does, and he was like, if you want to come up here and hunt, he's like, we can go hunt that farm if you just want to kind of try to whack some does and get some blood on the arrow before you start getting after it, trying to kill a buck or whatever. So I'm probably going to take him up on that, just because there's a pile of them, You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's fish in a barrel, but like it's very obvious where kind of how they're moving and entering this one little area where it's like you sit there an evening or two, you're going to get a crack or two, you know, and that's really what I need. I need live reps, you know, so
Exactly.
I'm definitely going to do that, and definitely at home, I'm going to do that too. So yeah, should be fun. But with that, it's enough kind of like normal what we got going on kind of talk. We're going to move on to the TNA section of the broadcast. You know, so avert your eyes. You know, it's going to get risky here.
Earmuff.
And we'll do what we usually do. Yeah, camera off. Yeah, exactly. Earmuffs. We'll do what we usually do here, where we'll run through a question and we'll both kind of beat it up and give a response. A lot of times, Greg and I have similar responses. It's for a lot of obvious reasons, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. I don't want to keep Greg hostage here overnight, but there were a lot of themes. So I tried to pick the ones that felt like they were, you know, pick one, and if there were 3 or 4 other similar ones, then I would just kind of select one, and hopefully we do a good enough job that everyone feels like we addressed their question. So with that, this first one is, I'm going to let you take this one first. So I'll ask the question and then let you pontificate first, and then I'll add anything after. Oh. So this fellow writes in and says, when scrape hunting in the big woods, do you prefer to set up on the scrape or a few yards off the scrape? That's his question. So I would say when you're hunting scrapes in the big woods, how are you hunting them? Are you hunting close? Or are you hunting further off of them? What's your plan?
Last year I hunted extremely close because of shooting with the mouth tab, and I did have some encounters, but also some getting winded, busted by does. I like with a compound like 30 yards. I feel, you know, if he comes back 60 yards, I can shoot him. You know, if he comes behind me downwind, I think 30 yards off scrape is a good. If he doesn't, you know, if he comes at 50 yards, he's only 20 yards behind me. So I feel it gives me a good. If he comes straight into the scrape, it's a comfortable shot. If he's downwind, 20 to 30 yards, like it's a comfortable shot. Or even like if he's 60 yards downwind, 70 yards, like I'm still in that a 30-yard range where it's not necessarily a chip shot, but a 30-yard shot is better than a 50-yard shot, especially when on a moving deer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think over time mine has changed a little bit. Like I used to always want to set up to where I could shoot the scrape, and that came from a lot of when I first started really focusing and hunting scrapes, and particularly like when we say scrapes, like I'll say, I'm referring to like a community scrape. Like those are the only ones I'm going to really use to hunt off of for the most part. Right. I was very influenced early on when I first started really using them, by John Eberhardt, and John likes to set up and shoot to the scrape. Like he tries to set up from a destination standpoint, whether he's hunting like a lone apple tree somewhere or whether he's hunting a scrape, he wants to be able to shoot the destination spot. Mm-hmm. Right. And I did that for a while. And I think as I've gone, I've started backing off a little further. And a lot of that came from talking to, a guy like Nathan Killen, right. Mm-hmm. Who, he'll use scrapes as part of his strategy, but he's hunting kind of off the scrape to a degree, like 50, 60 yards. He might even set up 100 yards off of it. Like he's more looking at it as like that scrape is the bait or the lure, if you will, right? And what is the route that a buck is going to take to scent check that? Because as you and I well know, it's like a mature deer isn't often like walking to the scrape, right? And I watched that while I was hunting a couple different times where I had a deer that I wanted to kill come in, and he came in 40 yards off that scrape where he could smell it. He bedded down for 2 hours and got up and walked away, right? And that was like a big learning for me, right? Which was like, hey, I probably need to set up a little further off of these and think about how they're going to enter and where they might hang up, because the smart ones aren't always going to walk to them, especially in the daylight, right? And so I would say for this person, if you're hunting the big woods, if you have terrain that you can use, I would think about what terrain are they going to have to use to get to that?
Yeah.
What is the most obvious kind of terrain that would need to be used, or path of least resistance? Maybe it's not terrain. Maybe it's just like an area gets really thick that they can't really, or that they would prefer to not walk through, right? And they want to walk the edge of it or whatever. I would think about that as opposed to setting up on the scrape. Sometimes setting up on the scrape is the best option. Sometimes it's not. So it's not a one size fits all, but that's how I would evaluate it. Do you kind of feel the same way, or do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, it depends on the location of the scrape too. Now, if the scrape is in a lot of security cover, he's got plenty of cover. I think they're more inclined to get closer to the scrape, but you start getting some maybe mature hardwoods, there's not a lot of brush on the ground, and I think they scent check more in those situations just because there's no cover available at that scrape. So it's really like probably site-specific setups, like security cover. Yeah, I see them coming to scrapes more directly than out in the open, and that's why those out in the open ones definitely sit back 40 yards or so. That's why, like I say, even for me at 30 yards, 35 yards, that deer comes, 60 yards. Even if he's downwind of me, he catches my scent, I still have a good chance to shoot that deer. Because first of all, he's going to stop, and he catches either my ground scent, or just scent in general. That's my opportunity, to take the shot because I'm still, 30 yards away. He's 60, 70 from that scrape, but I'm 30 yards from him. But I've had it bite me in the ass. I've hunted off the scrape and had deer, just walk right into the scrape. Wrong wind, wrong everything. And you're like, cool. I'm back 50 yards and he's over there just tearing the scrape up. And I'm like, hey, thanks for stopping by. Never see you again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's funny because, last year I had one, I was sitting on a scrape, or sitting near a scrape. And, this deer also skirted it. It skirted behind me probably now the way he skirted it. And I was also hunting a specific deer. So I didn't, even foolishly didn't even pick my bow up for this deer, which any other year would have been just dumb. But this deer did the same thing. Like he kind of came in and got downwind. There was a stream that was there, or like a washout that was there. And he wanted to be on the opposite side of that washout. So he just kind of came along, scent checked it, stayed, 25 yards basically away from me, and probably a total of 40, 45 yards, maybe 50 yards away from that scrape. Right. And he was just making his way through, and that was it. And he got everything he needed to know by walking, by walking that close. Yeah. And the funny thing was I thought to myself after I saw that, I was like, would I ever in my life set up on the other side of that washout? And the whole time I was like, I would think that I would be out of the game so far on the other side of that washout. But the more I started thinking about it, I was like, man, this scrape is a little bit kind of in the open. There's a natural funnel that kind of occurs there. And where the best cover is really kind of 30 yards, behind that scrape, in and along that washout. Yeah. And so I was like, that's actually probably the best spot. You're going to have marginal shooting there. Yeah. I was like, but that's probably the best place to have a close encounter.
And that's too, brings me back when 20 years or so, I used to use tarsal gland a lot, so I could shoot into the scrape. And I would have does and bucks, come downwind, catch that tarsal gland scent, drag line or whatever, and go right into that scrape, work it over and smell it. So, if you're a scent guy, then, and I probably should have used scent last year, being my range was limited. I probably could have had more success if I would have walked to that scrape and threw something in there, and gave me a better opportunity probably at seeing, I had some really nice deer just out of range, scent checking that scrape, but I can't be back 30 yards when my range is 18, So looking back now, yeah, I probably should have used some type of scent when my range is limited, just to that certain time frame, late October, I think tarsal gland, might be what one would need to pull that deer maybe out of cover, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something just to pique his curiosity,
Yeah,
make him
yeah,
go, "Hey, what's that? What's going on over there?"
exactly.
You know? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think we covered that. So I think the net is it's situation specific as most everything is with when it comes to hunting deer. You know, if it's a place where a deer is going to have to almost step in it to check it, then hunting close to it makes sense. If
yeah,
there's in the open and there's cover around it, you probably want to figure out how you can hunt the cover around it, you know,
yeah,
to get a little closer. And then to your point, you know, you might need to pull a few rabbits out of your hat if you're limited in range. And that's kind of how I'm thinking this year. It's like, how do I hunt some of these destination spots,
yeah,
longbow? Like, what do I got to do differently, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
think of it like your buddy
speaking of,
your buddy the trapper. You
go
were
ahead.
talking about the foot in the trap. You know, like I got friends that trap really good trappers. And they kill really good deer, and they have no problem. I mean, they all shoot traditional, and same thing. They get up close, shoot these deer at 10 yards, 9 yards, and they get really aggressive when they're hunting their scrapes, and they hunt on the scrape, but most of them they do put something out there. They'll throw something in there, just that little bit of scent and curiosity to pull that deer in because when you're limited, you know your range wise, you got to do what you got to do
Yeah.
to get them in there.
Yeah. 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 It's, I mean, in the Midwest and the plains, it's like I'm going to be, I decoyed out there previously, but I'm definitely going to be decoying, this year as well. And so that'll be kind of like my approach out there is can I fool one to get close enough, if there's one that I want to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
But around here, I'm really I always kind of focused on food, especially if I can get scrape in and around food in one spot that I know of. It's like, it's got all the things, food, cover, water, like everything right there. And it all kind of converges at one spot. So that's one setup where I'm like, all right, I think I know how to set up here because they have really limited options as to like where they can get any one of those things that are all kind of together. It's like a big white oak drop in, there's a little bit of water, the cover's like, it's a kind of tight area the way the terrain sits. So it's like they don't have a lot of options. They're either in or they're out, right? It's like if they're out, I don't have a chance anyway. But if they're in, they're going to have to come by me.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So, all right. So this next one, I think we beat that one up well enough. This next one is, I think they're just asking, can we talk stick bows? I think let's save that one till later because I think there was another one that was related to stick bow, and I think it was more like setups and stuff like that. And we'll talk setups because I know you changed bows and stuff this year too. So we'll get to that one in a second. This person here is asking. They just put thermals. It's a pretty broad topic.
Thermal.
Yeah, we could do we could just do a whole series on thermals in general. My answer is yes.
Yeah. To what? Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, all of it. Yeah, thermals. I mean, there's so much to it. Like, I think just baseline is if you're new at kind of playing with thermals, or I don't want to say playing with thermals, new with trying to hunt effectively using thermals, because I think people go through like a learning process when it comes to wind, right?
Yeah.
And how scent works in the deer woods, right? I think, a newer hunter, at first may not even know anything about it, right? Pay no attention to it. And then I think they realize like, oh, I need to pay attention to this. And so then they start paying attention to the prevailing, right?
Yeah.
And at least that's getting them part of the way there, right? It's like, at least maybe that's helping their access a little bit better, right? And it's fooling some younger deer probably. And then you go beyond that and you start to go, all right, well, it's prevailing, right? But what is the current doing where I'm going to hunt? And you're using milkweed and you're understanding that, like, yeah, even though it's a west wind, it blows like slightly south in this spot, right? Even with a west wind. And then you get into like, which is like the master class of it, at least in my opinion, is kind of how I've always thought about it, is like when you start to understand thermals. And then the PhD happens when you understand how all those things work together, right? And so when you start talking about thermals, I think just to make this really simple to answer the question, and I'll let you kind of jump in here in a second, is just understand like the elements that are going to impact whether the thermal is rising or falling, right? So just understanding like elevation and what that does, or how that thermals will play, whenever you're in the hills in the mornings versus the evenings, and how that should change or help dictate your access.
Yeah.
I think if you just start there, I think you'll have a lot better hunts than you would typically. And then I think beyond that, you can go into like, when you're set up somewhere close to water, and if it's running water or moving water versus, stagnant water or whatever, because there's a whole lot of things that kind of go into it, especially as you play like in the marshes and stuff like that, But I think if you just start there, if you're a person who's just trying to figure out like, how do I use thermals? It's like, when the sun hits it, it's rising. When the sun goes down and the earth is cooling, it's falling, and it's going to the lowest point, right?
Yep.
I think if you just do that, it'll help your access, and then you kind of build from that. Once you get that conceptually, then you can start using it in other ways. But curious what you think.
Yeah, thermals are. Big deer live and die by the thermals. A lot of deer have lived because of a thermal pool. A lot of deer have died. Same thing. The wind could be fantastic for the deer, but once that last hour light happens, that thermal pull can be so drastic. It just pulls your scent 5 or 6 degrees in a different direction. That's where you're going to kill a wily old buck, because he feels it's safe. I've been here all day, like I'm smelling everything, but that thermal pull just pulls your scent just a few degrees off. And that's, once you understand, you get in certain spots and you understand how thermals work. And that comes to like, you can look at a map and say, hey, this is what thermals are going to do. You need to actually go out there and see what the thermals are going to do. Guys that are really good hunting marsh and mountains, the same type of mountain ranges, they know exactly, they've been hunting so long, you know exactly what the thermals are going to do under all wind directions. Have a little notebook, go out, hey, I got a northwest wind. The last hour light or the first hour light, northwest, the thermals are doing this. Next time you go out, same thing. If that happens, all right, you got it in that spot. You can say, hey, thermals are screwing me in the morning here, but also that opens up in the evening because I know it's probably going to switch in the evening. So you can start getting a pattern for specific locations. Because I can look at a topo map, southern Ohio or something, like, oh, the thermal's going to do this. You go out there, it's not remotely close to what you're going to do because there's cover, there might be a stream. The sun don't hit that little bit, and it stays, cloudy all day, or that little ridge draw gets no sun. So the thermals are just constantly swirling. So you need to be in a spot and hunt it a few times to get an idea of what the thermals are actually going to do.
Yeah. And two things that came to my mind, like as you were kind of talking through that. One was, I think a way that someone can learn to use thermals kind of quickly to a degree, right? It was a hunt that I had in Iowa. It's how I killed the buck I killed in Iowa. I set up along this edge of this draw. Like, so it was like the like north-south, like edge of the draw, right? So it was going long ways, right? And I was sitting on like one of the long edges. I wasn't at the mouth of it. I wasn't at the tail of it. And I sat up there specifically because the trail that these deer were using to kind of come through this area, that basically the wind was hot garbage most of the time, just by the way the prevailing wind worked. But in the evening, when the sun started kind of going down, there was a huge, and that draw had cover, there was a huge pool into that draw. And I noticed that the first night I hunted it, where it was just sucking my wind straight down into that draw. So as long as no deer were using that draw, and everything I had seen to that point suggested they weren't, anything that walked along that edge of that draw would think they had the advantage of the wind and would never smell me. Like they could be hypothetically downwind of me and they would never smell me, you know? And sure enough, that buck came in when he thought he had the prevailing wind in his face, and he did, right? But I was just getting enough of that draw. My wind was blowing toward him, but it literally just pulled my wind. I was dropping milkweed watching. It's like before he walked in, I could see it just floating off the line of that trail. Right? And he walked in with the wind in his nose, and I shot him at like whatever it was, like 8 yards or something like that. Right. So that's one example of like a what I'll call like a rudimentary, like basic way to use it, right? Like know when the sun's going down, you're near like the edge of a drop off, and your thermals will kind of drop off in there when the sun starts going down, right? And that's kind of talking about what you're talking about, how you beat a deer's nose. And then the other one, like when you get like master level at doing it, I was talking to Heath Cisco once where he figured out where a buck was bedded, and he followed the sun around a mountain as it was going down to get the thermal to drop so he could get close enough when that buck left his bed. So he started like on the opposite side of the mountain and just followed, because he needed to be in position before that buck moved, and he could never get there in time because of the thermals. And so he just basically followed the sun around the mountain. As the sun went down, he would continue to move with the sun. So he would be in position when the sun finally went down and the thermal switched, that deer would get out of his bed. And that's how he killed him.
That's insane.
And I was like, that's next level shit.
Yeah. Level, for sure.
You know, I was like, that's some, there's levels. Like mine was like very rudimentary, right? Heath Cisco's was like next level. Like I aspire to get there, right?
Yeah,
but
you thought you did something good.
But that's also like, a man who's been doing it for years. And
yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm so good. You're like, oh, I suck again. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was doing something. I talked to him. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, in like flat country, like in
I think,
like in flat country, you know, in the evening, any type of dip in the field, that's where you're going to see a buck probably slip into those beans, because everything's kind of pulling down into that point. He's probably going to be coming out in that general vicinity, because everything's kind of that last 15, 20 minutes of light. Everything's pulling down to the low point in the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the same reason why, like, you'll see a lot of sign in those low points, right? When you're thinking about, like, I'm going to say the cringe phrase, which is thermal hub, right? Which is like, you know, was all the rage like 2 years ago. But those areas where you have a lot of points where the thermals are kind of pulling down into a bottom, it's like there's the reason why there's a ton of sign down there is because a lot of deer are using that oftentimes at night, right? And they can literally smell everything that's on those ridges, right? Yeah. But it's also one of the hardest places to hunt because of that reason. Like they're almost bulletproof in those areas. But you'll also find like great scrapes, great rubs, great spots for inventory, right? If you have a hammer scrape in one of those hubs, man, it's like you'll know every deer that's in the area with a camera there, you know. But they're just super, super hard to hunt. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think did we cover thermals well enough, do you think? Is there anything else we want to add, or are we good to move on?
I said it's something you got to experience. You got to figure out kind of on your own. And said just wind map all these spots, get a really good idea what's happening.
Yeah, and without a specific kind of example that if they're asking for like a specific setup, we could give a little bit more of a specific answer. But I think that's good enough to kind of get this fella started, or at least give him something to chew on. This next one's actually from the same fella, and he's still it's around scent related stuff still, but he says is getting in too early. So I'm assuming getting into his setup, whether it's a stand or a saddle or whatever tree on the ground, is getting in too early going to affect how big of a scent pool you create in certain areas. So I'll let you take a stab at that one first.
Yeah, yes and no, but I guess depends on, like I said, what type of wind you got. You know, I'm a big believer in certain spots getting there super early, beating the deer back, because sometimes you need to get in early because, you know, you got to beat the deer back. You know, like in the mountains, you know, I love getting to the top of the mountain like super early, and especially like hunting over beds. I love being there, letting the woods calm down, settle down, and letting the deer come to me. As long as your access is good, you can get in clean. I mean, getting early, I don't think it's going to hurt you. There again, it could also backfire because, you're near 3 hours before light, like something might wind you from behind, but getting winded by a deer isn't necessarily a bad thing. Because they wind all the time. They're blowing and stomping at night, just because you got coyotes, foxes, whatever, and getting winded isn't a the death call that some people think it is. Especially 3 hours before light. I don't think a buck's
Right.
going to be like, "Hey, I'm not going over there because the deer winded." You know, as long as his wind's good, getting to and from where he's going,
Right.
I don't think a deer, winding you, getting there early is going to hurt your chances.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also say that I don't think getting in early, I think when you get there, however, whatever time you get there, your scent is your scent
Yes.
footprint in that area, right? Regardless of whether you got there early or late, because you're still there. You are the scent,
Yeah.
so it's not like you got there and it's gonna dissipate or whatever. It's going to be there until you're not there. And they're gonna know they're gonna know you were there even after you left, right?
Yeah.
So I don't worry so much about that. I think it's more what you're talking about, which is like, is your access good and things like that to limit the chances. I think what you're saying with them blowing stuff like that, like, yeah, you could get popped by something, before it's hunting like light or whatever, right? It's just kind of the risk that you take. I think maybe more importantly is the area that you're going into more than scent is obviously, extremely important. But when I think of getting in early or not, I think more about what am I having to walk through and how much do I need to see,
Yes.
right? Because a lot of times for me, it's like I might go in with a little bit of gray light because I'm going into an area and I have good access, so I know my scent's going to be good. But I can't run the risk of like tripping over something, making extra noise, fumbling around in the dark, getting off course and stomping through a bunch of briars and brush and making a bunch of freaking noise and letting everything know within a 3-mile radius that I'm there. Right. Yeah. So I think more about that, is if it's really tight and nasty, it's like, I'll wait the extra 30 minutes to go in. I might go in early-ish and I can't see, and I'll get to the spot where I need some visibility beyond just a headlamp or whatever. And then I will just stop and wait until like the woods start to wake up just a little bit and I've got enough gray light to where I can see like, okay, I'm good to go. I'm not bumping any deer. I can finish the last 200 yards or whatever, right? Like that to me, and that for me was a lot of just like trial and error, hunting out of state, not knowing exactly where I'm at. And I realized pretty quickly that I was screwing up a lot of my hunts before they started because I wanted to get in early.
Yeah.
But I was making so much noise because I couldn't find exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
And so I started just making a habit of walking in with a little bit of gray light. I do it a lot in the plains because I can see pretty early from like the moonlight and stuff, to where it's like I almost don't walk into anywhere in that area without some sort of light.
Yeah.
Like, just because they could be in the CRP that I'm trying to walk through.
Yeah. And I think too, like I'll do the gray light, but usually that's very rut based. Like I don't want to, walk across like a cut cornfield or cut bean field, because there'll probably be some deer out in there. Like I wait till gray light and really scan it with the binos before I walk across this giant open field, because I don't want to get stuck out in the middle of a field and like, oh, here's a bunch of deer. Mm-hmm. So I do the gray light. Usually, during it's more ruts timing. And if I'm getting there super early, usually like it's one of those destination setups. Like I've already got it tacked. I got eye shines or whatever, marker on your phone, whatever it is. I got my trail already made out where I can get to that spot, without busting out too much, without creating too much commotion.
Right. So I think the net is like whatever access you have that's going to work for you and whatever you need from a visibility standpoint, right? Your scent is going to be your scent. I wouldn't worry so much about the time that you get in. I would worry more about, are you getting in clean in general, and are you alerting anything along the way?
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Cool, man. We're gonna move on to the next one here. Let me see here. These ones are these couple are kind of similar, so we'll do this one. This person's writing, or this group of people is asking essentially, how much trust do you put in historical sign, old rubs, as potential like stand or just like setups? So I'll take this one first since you took the last one.
All right.
For me, it used to not be a whole lot. And that was just because I wanted to see something that was newish. I think it also is time of season dependent. If I'm hunting earlier, I probably want to see something that's newer, so to speak. If it's more toward rut timing, I probably am less concerned with how fresh the sign is, and the fact that historical sign is there will tell me that like deer like being there for whatever reason. That was kind of like my old way of thinking about it, but last year kind of changed a lot of that for me because, I was chasing a specific deer. I really felt like I was chasing my tail a little bit, and there was one spot that I walked into, and it was just destroyed from historical, and nothing seemed newer than at least a year old, if not the most recent rub in there being like 2 years old. But it just had everything that you would want, right? And I think that's the other part. Like, you can't just qualify the historical sign. You kind of have to qualify the historical sign with context of, like, what is it in? What is it around? Is that historical sign valid still because the area still is an area that has the things that a mature deer would want? Yes. Or was that historical sign made 6 years ago when this was like a really good clear cut, and now it's 6 years past its prime, and there's nothing really there that would suggest a mature deer would want to spend a bunch of time, right? Yeah. So I think you have to kind of think of it in context. It's not like a one size fits all. For me, last year, the sign that I found in that area was all old, and I just had a sense that this deer was there, and sure enough, he was. Right. And then as the season went on, he made some new sign that was like on the opposite end of this particular section of the historical sign. So I think if you're, especially in big woods, because I feel like big woods stuff changes very slowly over time, as opposed to like ag shifting and like being in like places that just have like, that's more dynamic. Typically, if I'm in a big woods piece and I see historical sign, like I usually pay attention to it. If I'm in smaller parcels that have more things are being dictated by neighbors or agriculture rotation and things like that, I put a little less stock in it because I don't know exactly when it was made. Mm-hmm. But the old sign, I feel like, holds more true the more you're in big woods and you're kind of away from like other influence, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think about it. How about you?
Yeah, historical for me, if I'm out of state, if I'm really hunting 5 or 6 days, I don't put much faith in historical stuff because I'm not there on a consistent enough basis. I only pay attention to historical stuff in the places I hunt. Like I'll take note of them if I'm in Maryland. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, why is the sign here? You kind of like a little thought process. But if I'm not hunting on a regular basis, I don't give historical sign because it changes. If you, like you were saying. Was that hot 2 years ago? I don't know. There's a bunch of old rubs. Is that rub 2 years old? Is it 1 year old? Is it 3 year old? Because they all kind of look the same, after a year. Is that a 3-year-old rub? Is that a 2-year-old rub? So yeah, it's hard to gauge it unless I'm seeing it in real time. Like, hey, when this field's beans, rubs show up here in the middle of October. I know that. So if it's corn, they don't show up there, So it's like, I like historical sign only in areas I hunt quite often. Then I can put a plan together for that.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I'm similar. Like where I was hunting last year, it's like I had a lot of time too. I was there every day pretty much. But to your point, it's like when I'm out of state, it's like I really don't even. I shouldn't say I don't. Depending on where I'm hunting out of state, unless it's like really, really fresh, like I don't pay much attention to it because I don't have enough time to decipher whether it means something or not. Exactly. I need to know that it's like it means something right now when I'm out of state. But at home, to your point, it's like I pay a little bit more attention to it because, I have probably a little bit more knowledge too of the area. Like that area I was hunting, last year, it's like I kind of knew I was starting to piece together where the older deer kind of like what they were looking for in habitat. Cause I was finding some consistencies like with trail camera data that I had like over a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this feels like a place that I've seen trail camera data of big deer before in this area. Right. And so that's kind of what helped qualify it. And so I think you just can't look at the historical sign, but like historical sign going to be a good deer here. Right. Or I should hunt here. I think you have to look at it like historical sign. I know the area. What is it adjacent to? Are there things here that a big buck would want, right? Or a mature deer would want? Is it going to have a lot of pressure? Is it not? Like all the same things you would go through. But it is nice to know that like a big deer at one point liked to be there. That's helpful.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. All right, cool. I think we did that one good enough. I think we addressed that one. So we'll move on to this one. Oh, this is a good one. All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there, too. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tacticam, Osseo Gear, Hawk Optics, Face Off E-Bikes, and Lathrop & Sons Boot Company. And until next time, we'll see y'all.